Robert, actually, you and I met 2004 when I took the Enlightened Warrior training. That was actually one of my first experiences with personal development and taking my life, to the next level consciously, being willing to take it to the next level rather than, life just sort of hitting me, forcing me to change. And one thing I really love, and reading a little bit about your bio, training all over the world. And isn't it true you've been in business all your life?
I have been pretty much an entrepreneur. By the time I was 21, after being laid off from my third job, I'm like, something's not working here. So I need to take control of my own destiny. And because of necessity, I became an entrepreneur. But now looking back, there's no other way I could think of even doing it. So yeah, I've been an entrepreneur all my life.
So a lot of our listeners they're entrepreneurs, high achievers, doctors, lawyers who are really focused on success. In order to be an entrepreneur, and you've been doing it since you were, quite young and became successful. You became free at the age of 32. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now that's very interesting, because does success take a long time, or can it be quick for all of us?
Well, Sean, you mentioned that in 2004 was kind of your first introduction into really the personal development arena. And for me, it was the same kind of thing that happened in 2001. Because to me, personal development, I thought that was a little too woo-woo. So I remember my brother-in-law coming to me, and not to date myself and show people how old I am, but he was saying, Robert, I've got these Tony Robbins cassette tapes you've got to listen to. And I'm like, I don't need that stuff. Or I'd try to listen to him and be like, I don't need that stuff. Because I'd grown up as an in-a-box thinker. You work hard, you stay loyal to companies, you let them take care of you. So to me, it wasn't part of my reality. And it wasn't until I was deep in debt and struggling and stressed out beyond belief, over $150,000 in debt as an entrepreneur, Domino's Pizza franchisee, but at that time for 8 years, but still struggling, that someone, just because I had visited a booth that they had at an expo, they sent me 2 tickets to an evening, a 3-hour evening that changed my life. Because when I walked in that room, I was like, why am I here? All right, they're worth $39 each. And Sean, that's the only reason I showed up, is because luckily my mind would not let me waste a ticket that was worth $39. My wife and I walk in the room and it just blew us away. By the time the 3 hours was up, we went running to the back like the rest of the herd and we paid $600 for an amazing weekend. And the only reason we actually showed up to that, and the evening was in March of 2001, and the weekend was in June of 2001, so 3 months later, the only reason we showed up for that weekend was because we wanted to get our money back. We had paid this money and then started going to buyer's remorse. We're $150,000 in debt. We shouldn't have spent that money. And I'll tell you, I was ready for a fight. I walked in and I'm ready for a fight for them to say, you can't have your money back. And I'm feeling sick because my mind knew something was about to shift. So it was making me sick physically, mentally, emotionally. And I walk in a mess. And the girl who was at the registration table, who was a volunteer, she had that deer in the headlight look, because I'm just like, I just want my money back and I'm not going to take no for an answer. And she's just like, oh, what do I do? And she called over a woman who was one of the nicest women in the world, because again, what am I ready for? I'm ready for that fight. And this woman knew exactly what was going on. And she, instead of fighting me, she said, look, right here, right now, there's nothing I can do for you. But if you'll give me until lunchtime, come on in, you and your wife come in and just sit down and watch. And by lunchtime, I'll have an answer for you. We'll figure out how to do this. And I'm like, oh, fine. So I go out to the vehicle because my wife didn't even come in. She was sitting out in the vehicle. And, I convinced her that we need to sit down for the first little bit. And we come in, and of course, once we're in that energy, Sean, we're just rocking and rolling out. Also, we're not feeling sick. We're in the energy. And true to her word, she comes to find us at lunchtime. She's like, oh, and there's 700 people in this room. She comes and finds it and says, oh, there you are. She says, we can talk about your refund. And my wife and I are like, get away from us. No, are you kidding? We're having too much fun. We don't need a refund. And she just smiled and walked away. And that weekend changed our life because we realized why we were in debt. We realized why, even though we were successful by other people's minds or people looking from the outside in, they perceived we were successful, but not knowing the financial stresses we were going through, that we were not sleeping well at night, that we weren't, it was, trying to play that game of, no, we own a Domino's pizza, we must be successful. But from understanding where all that came from, all of a sudden we changed our life. And 9 months later, we went from being that $150,000 in debt to actually being completely retired, financially free in 9 months. So yes, it can happen quickly, but you've got to put the work in. Because in that 9 months, we put the work in. It wasn't just going, we learned something new. Come to us. We've got financial freedom. It doesn't work that way. But we were willing, because now when we understood, Sean, we said, you know what? We're willing to put the work in. So yes, it can happen quickly, and change is quick, but it's the maintenance. And you, with your transformation, think about this. Going in and doing the workouts, you can start seeing the transformation. But if you stop, that transformation can go away, and you can go back to the old style and the old fitness, the old health. So no different in business, no different in mindset, no difference in relationships, all those areas.
I love that. And I see that you've touched already on a few points, which is, we're talking about mindset. We're talking about emotional set. We're talking also, what is success? You mentioned, what is that? What I thought was success, yet I wasn't sleeping at night. What other people's definition of success was that maybe I was going for. I know that was one of my biggest thresholds to try and get through was, well, what is success? I'm chasing all these things that, I'm supposed to be doing. And so I'm curious, from your standpoint, what would you say is success to you?
Well, it's a balance. You've got to look at 5 arenas: mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and financial. We are holistic beings. And so if we only focus on one, and so many people think success is all around the money. Yeah. And then if they ever achieve it, and listen, to how I say this, if they ever achieve it, they wonder, why it's short-lived, or why it's not as fulfilling as what they thought it should be. And that's because they were just focused on the money side. But now all of a sudden their relationships, and you hear the stories all over the place about how, I want success, but I don't want my family to pay the price, or more money means my relationships are going to be crap. And because people start to ingrain that and believe that, it becomes their reality. But if you look at it and you say, you know what? No, I can have that mental, that emotional, that spiritual, that physical, and that financial success. I can have all of them. And the trap that people get into, though, Sean, is they think that it's got to be balance. And they think balance, and for people who are listening, I've got my hands up right now, side by side, perfectly side by side at the same level, staying still. And people think that's what balance is. But that's not what I've learned over the last 18 plus years of traveling around the world. Is what I've learned, Sean, is that we're always changing. We're always going through those ebbs and those flows, those ups and downs. And what balance to me is the correcting, the adjusting, the looking at it going, like this morning, and I'll be right up front with your viewers, your listeners. This morning, I woke up and I was exhausted because I've been doing tons of interviews. I've been on, a new app called Clubhouse, just being of value. I've been starting trainings for the other side of the world where I have to be up at 4 from 5 to 8 a.m. I'm doing the full-on training on Zoom. Then I'm on interviews right after. By the time I hit 11 o'clock in the morning, I've been on 5 to 6 hours of Zoom trainings and doing interviews and stuff. So I've exhausted, and then I fight that mindset of, do I go back to bed and lay down for an hour? No. If you do that, that's being unproductive. And so I go through this battle in my head just like everybody else. And so the key, first of all, is understand we're all the same. The shit that's going on in your mind, in your life, successful people have the same thing going on. There's no difference. The question is, how do you handle it? How do you make those adjustments to keep your life in the balance that you want? And my new book that I'm writing now called The Authority Key, one of the things I talk about is the 4 currencies of life. And one of the currencies is the currency of money. And there's too much money is called affluenza. And when you have affluenza, you do crazy, stupid stuff with that money. And too little money is called poverty. And so it's about what I've discovered over a number of years is that every single one of us, my level of what's a good amount of money for me, the bottom and the top, Sean, can be totally different than yours. Yeah. It could be totally different than someone else. I was listening to a person talk, he called The Game, top rapper. He's promoted and found talent. He does the producing, and he's been reported to be upwards of $100 million in net worth. He's now down to about 20, 30 million. And he's having a real conversation with everybody of, look, for me, I topped out at about 100 million, and I was doing crazy stuff with my money, and it's stupid. He says, that's why I started giving it away, because, and this is what people have to understand, is what success for me financially can be totally different than you. So before COVID, BC as I call it, I was flying on average 200,000 miles a year around the world to be on live stages. And that was enough for me, because I don't need to have millions and millions and millions of dollars. If I have enough to allow me to have the lifestyle where I get a lot of time with family, that's the currency I want. That's the level, if that makes sense. But I have a colleague whose goal, his passion is to get to billionaire status. So while I was doing 200,000 miles a year, he was flying over 1 million miles a year, basically living on the plane. And to me, that's ridiculous. But to him, that's where he wants to be, because that's his passion. So who am I to judge the level he wants to go to?
Totally.
And this is where people fall into the trap. Social media, we start comparing. We see everybody's great days, how amazing they're doing. But then we compare our crap to their best. And we wonder why we're miserable. And so, like, if I was to compare my health to yours, Sean, I'd be miserable every freaking single day. Because but I don't know your journey. I know a little bit of it, because you and I, we've connected, we've shared, and your journey is phenomenal. And anybody who's listening to this or watching this and hasn't really checked out what you do and how you transformed and how you went through the self-doubt and to really gain the status that you're at. See, I don't care about the results of people. I want to know their journey, because that's who's made them who they are. And that's how I choose who I want to connect with. Because if it's just been a perfect life for them, then they're bullshitting and they're not being truthful about what they went through. But every successful person that you watch, if you actually go behind the scenes and you look at their journey, this is why so many people say they want success, but they're not willing to do. So if you want to be a trainer like I am and travel around the world, then you've got to be willing to do what I did. You've got to be willing to practice the way I practice. You've got to be willing to stumble and fall and pick yourself up the way I do. If someone wants to be in the same amazing shape that you're in, they've got to do the reps. They've got to drag their ass out of bed and get to the gym and do the workout, and not let their mind say, oh, maybe I'll just sleep a little bit longer. See, that's the difference that I look at. And I don't know if this is where you want to go on it, Sean, but this is just kind of what's coming up.
Totally. This is fantastic. And, you're exactly right. The same thing that drives me, is I learned I had to meet my mind. First, I had to see what it was all about. And going to the gym was where I came face to face with my mind. And I realized it wasn't as supportive as I would have liked it to have been.
Right.
And, and that's what I hear you saying too, whether it's, being a trainer traveling around the world, is, there is doubt, there is fear. And what's really interesting about the mind is you're mentioning managing the currencies of life. What is it when it comes to your mind that you like to do? Do you have certain rituals or practices that you like to do in order to tame the mind, in order to harness the power of the mind? How would you talk about that?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you, it took years to understand it. I have no freaking control. And the moment I think I do, my mind will go, yeah, nice try. Let's go in another direction. We're always going to have, as my friend Aaron Huey says, we're always going to have the dragons that come and try to distract us and take us out. But yes, rituals, absolutely. One of the first things that was very important for me is I choose to surround myself with not like-minded people, but growth-minded people. And those are the people, and the difference between a like-minded and growth mind is the growth-minded people are the ones that are willing to have the difficult conversations when they need to be had. Yeah. The ones that will hold me to a higher standard and not let me play smaller than I am. Even if I resist, and boy, can I resist, especially when it's my wife, who's my greatest cheerleader, my greatest fan, the one where I will, and I say it from stage all over the world on videos, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for her. Because left to my own devices, I'd be comfortably miserable in a job because I wouldn't want to think outside the box. But she's not willing to allow me to play smaller than who I am. So one of my rituals, I surround myself with the growth-minded people that we have great conversations, but when it's time to have the tough ones, those are the ones that even take it to another level. Another one is I was never a spiritual woo-woo kind of guy. Yeah. But when I started realizing that there's a difference between woo-woo and being present and being centered, and I can't sit there and cross my legs and go for 20 minutes to meditate. Yeah. But when I understood that meditation is being present. So like right now, as an example, Sean, you and I are here on Zoom having a conversation. I'm aware of what's going on around me, but I'm here present right now. And so as my Zen teacher taught me, I'm meditating. And so my focus, my practice every single day is to meditate as much as possible by being present. Yeah. When I'm with my wife, I'm with her. And I've had conversations with people where they're with you, but you can tell their mind's somewhere else. Physically, they're there, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they're gone. True? Absolutely. And so it's the practice of now being present. So that's another one. And then in the morning, something, a great friend of mine, he was a monk for 8 years, over 15,000 hours of meditation. And he also studies quantum physics. So he can tell you all about spirituality, and then he can back it up with the quantum physics component of it. I nicknamed him years ago. I called him my quantum monk. Brilliant. And he taught me, he says, when you wake up in the morning, start your day where you take 5 minutes and you just visualize. What would today's perfect day look like for me? Not next day, next week, next month, but right now, if today was to be a perfect day, what would that look like? And by setting that intention, that starts my day off. Now, of course, does that mean it's going to actually go that way and it's going to be perfect? Most of the times, no. But I'm still way better ahead than the people wake up going, oh, crap, today's going to be another shitty day. I don't want to go to work. Big difference in the mindset, the way. So those are some of the things that I do now, and I've turned them into what I call true habits. I love acronyms, Sean. And one of the things that I'm now teaching people with that authority key is how to thrive in business and in life. And thrive actually is an acronym for true habits represented in an individual's values and experience. And so the difference between a true habit and a regular habit, a true habit is something like brushing your teeth. You're so unconscious and subconscious to it, you just do it automatically because you've done it so many times. You don't even think about it. A regular habit is one where you're now going, okay, and I don't know fitness to the level you do, but I'm going to make this shit up. I get to the gym and I'm like, okay, I think I got to do 5 reps of 30 pounds, 15, curls in a rep. And I'm sitting there physically thinking about it, going 1, 2, to eventually want to get it to where it is so ingrained I don't think about it. And you in fitness, that's exactly what you do. When you go to do your workouts, You're not thinking about how do I do this? What do I do? You know how the machines work. You know how it affects each part of your body. You know what you need to do to get to that next level because you've ingrained it so deeply. It's a true habit for you.
I love that.
But for me to work out beside you, oh, damn, I'd be sitting there going, what's he doing? How do I do that? Am I doing it right? Oh my goodness. Because you've mastered it, whereas I'm still working on it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, I love that. And, you brought up a great point. Meditation isn't just sitting there having to, be in this, pyramid position, cross-legged, because the gym for me is where I go to meditate.
That is your meditation. Absolutely.
It's where I learn to go within. And it's very interesting because you mentioned something as far as a mechanical process, counting, like brushing your teeth, doing the reps. It's interesting because people, I notice they'll be watching me in the gym, and then all of a sudden, they're picking up like a barbell and they're doing it and they're just going through the motion, right? Oh, yes. This must be how this is done. Meanwhile, if they come up and talk to me and they say, hell, that must be a great exercise. And I'll be like, but what I'm doing inside of my mind, it's where I go. It's where I connect. There is a flow of energy there. And this is what I hear you saying, no matter what it is we're doing, right?
Exactly.
Where, you and I, we're flowing this energy, this connection, you with your wife or in our relationships. Like that to me is what I see as a valuable thing to creating success in your life.
Yeah, and so if you're people, especially if you have a lot of entrepreneurs, and if they're feeling stuck and not knowing how to go to the next level, that's they've got to look at those true habits, and they have to they have to become an authority. They have to know the difference, because again, there's people out there with less knowledge, less experience, but yet they make more money. How is that possible? Well, it's because they have an understanding. And so if someone comes to you and says, dude, I'm watching you do these curls, so I just do that and I'm good. But you go, no, there's a whole mindset to it. And if you want the information, let's walk through it. Because the moment you align your mind and everything, and it becomes that meditation. For me, meditating, I do a lot of my meditating walking. After 2 back surgeries, I pride myself in not having to be on medications, muscle relaxers, stuff like that. And so anytime my back starts getting sore, I know the quickest way to release it is to walk. And the moment I'm walking, I become present. And the moment I become present, that's when you're directly connected to whatever higher power you want to go by. And also, that's when the downloads come. Have you ever noticed, Sean, when you're in the gym, that's when some of the most brilliant ideas come to you. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Guaranteed.
Because you're out of your head. You're connected, because that, as you said, that's your meditation. And so now for your listeners, for your viewers, what is it that gives them the joy where they get those downloads, those moments of brilliance? That's your meditation. So if you're doing the things that you hate to do and you're not in your area of brilliance within your work or job or business, then you're trying to be everything to everyone. And the more you say, you know what? And look, I only know this because, boy, have I gone through the struggle. I've got to be, man, when my wife and I first owned our Domino's pizzas, my mindset was we barely were able to buy the stores. We did it with no money of our own. We're not making a lot of profit. We can't afford an accountant. We can't afford a bookkeeper. We'll take care of that. And so all of a sudden it piled up, not getting done. And there's a lot of daily stuff because we weren't computerized back then. It was all manual. You would have a stack of what we call door sheets at the end of the night with 10 orders per sheet. And you had to manually go through and enter all this stuff. And we weren't doing it. And all of a sudden 2 years into our business, people going, how are you guys making it work? And our philosophy, well, if there's money in the bank, we must be profitable. And how many business owners do that, right? Because we thought we had to do it all. And I remember also it came time to the crunch where the government's going, you haven't filed taxes for a couple of years for your business. And so all of a sudden we buy a $7,000 computer. And this is when desktops were just starting to come in. And my brother-in-law, who was kind of smarter at that end of things, He spent weeks going through 2.5 years of accounting stuff, entering it in manually. What it cost us, it blew our minds. And all of a sudden I went, you know what, that's it. I don't care if I can't afford an accountant. I can't afford not to have an accountant.
Absolutely.
And any great accountant, they'll save you way more money than it'll ever cost. And the moment I let that part go, and because all the time we wasted on that, we weren't promoting our store. We weren't taking care of our customers. We weren't making high quality pizzas because we were burnt out. So all of a sudden sales get affected, customer satisfaction. So your listeners, your viewers, what is your zone of genius? And you know what it is because it's what you feel you get the most response from. It's where you're actually tuned in, you're turned on, you're just excited. And so you focus on that and let other people do the other jobs that maybe they don't do it as well as you, but they don't have to because it's freeing you up to do what you're the best at. That's a big key for business owners.
I love that. Would you say that has to do with a purpose, our own individual purpose, or call it genius that we have within us? Because we're also talking about high value activities versus, okay, this is hard. This is draining my energy. How would somebody, from an entrepreneur's or high achiever standpoint, because a lot of the questions that I receive is, well, I'm not very good at it, so therefore, it's not my thing. I should do the things that I am good at, but meanwhile, they can be suffering energetically, still
Absolutely.
having some stagnation in your life. Does that make sense? And how would
Totally.
Is that purpose related or?
Well, and here's the way I look at it. It's because we don't know the position each person that's listening or watching this is on.
Yep.
We don't know where they are right now. So sometimes it might mean a temporary solution to a long-term thing, and meaning, okay, I'm the person that does the marketing for my company, and I'm probably the best one at it, and that's what generates revenue. I don't like it, but I'm the best at it. So short-term, you do that, you focus on it, but what you want to be doing is you want to be tracking everything you do, creating that standard operating procedure so that someone can then come in and replace you. Because the goal is, while you have to do it, if you want to term it that way, you're doing it. You're going through it, so you're creating the revenue. Because I don't want someone to go, oh, my business is failing right now, but this is not my zone. I just want to be over here and be in kumbaya land. So that's what they said to do. So that's what I'm going to do. And all of a sudden the business puts them into worth position. So maybe you take that short term with the concept and the focus and the commitment that you will have someone replace you so that then you can go into the thing that you're tapped into. Because there is, and this is a big difference where people say, oh, I want to be successful, but they're not willing to put the work in. I'll be successful as long as I don't have to be on a Zoom call on Saturday. Oh, what do you mean I have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning? I wasn't expecting to have to do that. And if that's not what you want to do, then design the life so you don't have to do it, but be willing to do whatever it takes in the beginning to get yourself into that position. Is this making sense, John?
Absolutely.
And so that's the key is, so wherever your people are right now that are watching or listening to this, you make the decisions on what's going to get you moving in the direction you want so that you can get to where you truly want to be.
Yeah.
And don't let it get you caught up with the ladder to success against the wrong wall. You do it with the short term that I'll do this until it gets replaced so that I can then go on to that. So for me, my passion, I love speaking. I love training. I'm lit up when I'm on the stage.
Yeah.
And so, but however, to get on the stages now that COVID has hit, it's all gone virtual. And it was interesting because someone's going, well, Robert, your social media, how's your social media go? And I'm like, it's non-existent because for the last 18 years, anytime I've done trainings, I've contracted out. So I had 1 to 8 customers, and it's the same customers taking me all over the world. I didn't have to have social media. I didn't have to be attracting. And so it's been a journey switching over to learn about this thing called Instagram, learn about what is a Facebook Live, learning about doing Zoom. It's not my forte, but I'm willing to put the work in and learn about it, because I can't expect to go from just being a contractor to now, because now I do high-end mentoring, where if someone wants to be a trainer and do what I've done, and over that last 18 years, as an example, I've personally sold over $100 million in products and courses from the stage. And so that gives me an authoritative position. So now I like to help people who want to be able to do great trainings. So I want to work with them. But to get to them that are willing to pay my high fee, I also have to make sure that I'm putting in the work to, how do I attract those people to me? How do I get them to know even who I am? What great social media places, I don't have to do it all on my own, but I do have to know enough to know if the person's doing a good job for me or not. See,
Yes.
That's the other key, Sean, is you may not do it all, but you've got to know enough about it, because how many people in business have lost so much money because they've just blindly turned over their advertising, blindly turned over other parts of their business without having enough knowledge to know whether the person doing the job knew what they're doing or not. So those are some distinctions that I'm even going through right now.
Yeah, and that's an amazing point. And that reminds me of one of my first businesses in technology. Was, as an entrepreneur, I had built it to a certain level, and then I did just that. Is I handed over the reins to the expert, and literally before I knew it, it had basically dissolved before my eyes. And that was a very valuable and painful lesson, in order to make sure that I was constantly involved in the process, right? And so you also mentioned that there's pivoting, there's transitions along this entrepreneurial path, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. How has that been for you to go from, Domino's Pizzas to being a trainer, and how you've seen that path unfold? Because sometimes some of those, and it doesn't have to be, really into, a big backstory, but I've noticed within myself that sometimes I'll hit a roadblock, and that roadblock is sometimes not meant for me to break it down, but to just slightly turn me a bit to go more.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Two powerful words. What's next?
Yes. I love that.
Instead of saying, oh shit, say what's next. And let's use, Domino's Pizza, not enjoying it anymore. That's one of the reasons we're going in debt. And I'm a big believer, if I don't enjoy doing something, I'm not going to do it. So I had to look at what's next. My wife and I looked at that. That got us, during that journey, found my passion was to train. All of a sudden we hit the pandemic. March 10th of last year, I arrived home from amazing 3-day training in India. Till all of a sudden March 11th, my world changing, and all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue because all my events are canceled. And we didn't know at the time, especially how long that was going to be. So all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue gone. And I have a choice. I can sit there and say, oh shit, woe is me, play the victim. My life's now going to change. I like my lifestyle, Sean. I love my lifestyle. So I choose to keep it at the same level it's at. And so then it's those two powerful words, what's next? And knowing that then I had to look at going digital, going more live streaming, learning Zoom. Right now, as an example, I'm downstairs in my office, in my home, whereas outside, off the back of my garage, we have a 2,400 square foot training center being built on. It's halfway through the construction, about a month left before it's ready. And then you're going to see all of a sudden behind me, I will have a video wall, 4 TVs linked together. I've already got down here, I've got my multi-screens, stuff I've never had to do before. But when I do Zooms, I've changed it where me sitting down, and Sean, me sitting down and trying to do a training drives me crazy because I'm animated on the stage. So that's why I'm back on my laptop. I've got it raised up so I can stand up when I'm doing a training. I can stand up when I'm doing an interview, because that gets my juice going. And so, I'll have the multi-screens, I'll have different recording areas so that even if I never get to travel again, I'm not worried about it because I've transitioned by asking those two powerful words, what's next?
I love that.
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's very similar to what I say. And it, you know, what I've been saying with my students is, it's not what's wrong, it's what's next. So I love that. Bang on. Now you mentioned lifestyle, and you're doing some construction, and you're really transitioning into that next phase, right? You're building this recording studio and office, and you've told me a bit about it, and it sounds phenomenal. But I want to shift gears a little bit into lifestyle.
Yeah.
How important is, family, and what would you say are some of your cornerstones to what make up your lifestyle? Because I know for me, family, fitness, and definitely finances and an inner purpose really can drive me forward with the balance versus just being driven and then having a lot of hard lessons.
Yeah.
Can you speak to your lifestyle, what those cornerstones might be?
I love that you're digging in deep to this, Sean, because here's the thing. And listening as an example, I'll go back to that gentleman who was listening to yesterday, the game. And the whole kind of his whole thing was, don't do things for money. Just, more money isn't going to make you a better life. And I noticed that everyone that was talking, they were all coming from the experience of, they've all created extreme wealth. And then they now realize that money's not everything. And so they're telling people, don't just chase money, don't go for it. And in my mind, I'm going, yes, but if you just tell someone to play a smaller game, then you're robbing them of the experience of the journey.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be where you're at today with this knowledge and this understanding had you not gone and had the media, tear you to shreds and all the things you had to do that, to get to that $100 million status. So I will never rob someone of that journey. And so to me, I'm where I am today because of the journey. When I found training, I'm an all-in type person, pretty much like you are, Sean. And so in 2004, when I did my first training on my own, 1,200 students for 3 intensive days, 12 hours a day on stage in Los Angeles, all of a sudden it went, I've arrived, this is my passion. And I started living that passion. But then over the next 4.5 years, I did over 200 live events, multi-day events for over 300,000 people. I was only home on average 2 days a month. I got burnt out because I was taking care of my passion. The financial was doing great, but my physical, I was tearing my body apart because I wasn't resting properly. My emotional, I was drained, but I was doing it. It's like, but this is my passion. And I'd have a couple of days off, and I was traveling to another part of and this was only in North America at the time. So it was just traveling, maybe New York to LA or LA back to Vancouver, whatever it was. And I was so burnt out that I had to take time off. And I said I was going to take a year off, but it turned into 3.5 years because I had so burnt myself out. But would I have learned these lessons, been who I am today if I hadn't gone through that journey? See, when I did come out of retirement, that's where the balance part really kicked in. And I said, you know what? No matter where I get used in the world, I want 6 months a year at home. I want to be at home. Now, when I'm home, I'm still doing some stuff, but I'm home. My goals then were, how do I create the reality of being home more? Yeah. Because for the last 8 years before COVID, I was doing, I said 20 trainings a year maximum. And I've averaged 19, 20, 21. So I've stayed right in there and still done the 200,000 miles of flying. With all the travel, it allows me to have the 6 months at home. But my wife knows that one of our rules when I come home from overseas, the first 2 days are write-offs. Because if I don't allow myself to just sleep, regenerate, so we call them freedom days. And how did I learn it? I learned it the hard way. Because when I land and not give myself time, I would be physically wiped out for a few weeks because I didn't give my body and my mind and my emotions the time to recuperate. So everything that I now guide people on is comes from the experience I've gone through. And so the cool thing, and this is why it's important to have mentors, is people who've accomplished what you want to accomplish. Like someone wants to learn fitness, you go see Sean because he can say, yes, doing that is going to work great. But what you're doing there, just the way you're doing a little different, here's the negative impact it's going to have on you. And you're not even realizing it. So if you want to cut your journey down and have the success quicker, follow what I tell you to do. And that's going to get you the results because I've gone through it. And most people, because of what we're taught in school, they go, oh, that system, that sounds great, but I'll do it my way.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
I think this will work better. And then they wonder why they get stressed and struggled. Now, it's part of their journey, but ladies and gentlemen, listen to me, please. If you want to have your life go to another level, if you're tired of struggling the way you have been, and I don't know your life, I don't know where you're at. But if you're struggling, it's because you aren't modeling people. You're not mentoring people that have gone through what you want to. They've already achieved what you want. So if someone wants to be in optimum health and just look amazing and be a model, you go see Sean. You don't come see me because my aerodynamic head and my fluffy body, I got COVID body right now. That may not be your idea of what fitness is. But if you want to learn how to be authentic and be present on a stage and really be able to take your life experience and get it across to people in a way that you can take what you've learned and help people and do it in a way that profits, then you come see me because that's what I can teach you. So it's finding the people that fit with the journey you want to go on. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Love it. I love it. And you mentioned the authority key, the new book. Is there a timeline? Is it published right now? When is it coming out? Is there, talk to us.
We're creating it because when I wrote my first book, and for those who are on video, you see I have a banner behind me, Success Left a Clue. When I wrote the first book, I didn't know how to write a book. I had an idea I wanted to write it, and I struggled and I procrastinated, and I finally realized that doing things like this, trainings, interviews, that allows me to flow and be in my zone of genius. And if I record it, then I can have someone write the book instead of me trying to figure it out. So with my authority key, that's what we're doing. That's why I'm doing 4-day trainings, because I record everything. So now a ghostwriter will be able to take all the zones of brilliance, all the things that I say, put it into, because my expertise is not writing. So why not have someone whose expertise is do the writing part? My expertise is just having these present moment, let's just dive in. Where are we going to go? And every time I do it, and here's a kind of a key or a clue for people who want success: repetition. Just like working out, it's not the weight, it's the repetition. And so I'm doing the trainings over and over again, and my students are blown away and having a great time. And they're going, thank you for doing it. And I'm going, thank you for being here because you're helping me write my book. So we are, it'll be out probably near the end of this year would be the earliest that we release it. And so and what I thought it was going to be to where it's at, totally different worlds, because the more I speak it and I dive into like the 4 currencies, the 4 phases people go through, the 7 steps to becoming an authority, the what I call the authority master key, the thriving in life and business. As I've been speaking it, it's been taking on a life of its own because I've been learning along the way and going, yes, I like that, but I don't like this. And that's another clue for people in success. Don't try to make it perfect before you start. Just start. Put your workout equipment on, go to the gym.
Absolutely.
Don't just look at the machines, start doing something. And then find someone who's good at what they do and say, what would it take to be coached by you, to be mentored by you? But don't think that you have to wait for the instructor to show up before you start. Just start and make that decision. That'll take you light years away. One of my favorite quotes from one of my mentors: 1 step in the right direction is worth 1,000 years of thinking about it.
Wow, absolutely. It's so true. Mentorship has been so powerful for me, continues to be. And, it's what changed my life and just formed some boundaries, for me to sort of, you're talking about the value of our journey. And it's true, but I think the value of a mentorship is also, to have those boundaries where you can still sort of, bounce between, you can bounce ideas, you can up level, the currency of thinking. And, So absolutely, mentorship is huge
And people have to be willing to pay for it, because everybody wants things for free or inexpensive, and you're going to be invested in what you invest in. Les Brown said that on a call the other day. Amazing gentleman, and I love him. And I loved how he said it, because he's like, if you're not invested, you're not invested. Well, I can't afford it. Then you find a way of creating it, because you then will be more invested. When someone works with me for a year as one of my mentees, they paid a lot of money. Now, we know they'll get a huge return on investment, way more than they ever paid, if they're willing to put the work in. But if I've tried mentoring people at no cost, Sean, and I hate it, because they've got no skin in the game, and then they come up with every reason why they shouldn't keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
Right? It drives me crazy.
I see it all the time too, Robert. And it's a mindset, right? Paying for something. And wouldn't you agree? It's not really about the money. It's about somebody stretching, becoming uncomfortable, and then being able to see what's really going on. They have to step out of that comfort zone. Because I've had people come to me and say, well, if it's not about the money, then why isn't it free? And, so I love what you said there, because it is about being uncomfortable. And I know it's one of your warrior principles is, becoming uncomfortable, because we can really grow through in that phase. So, but I wanted to just ask you that question before, I can really give access to, some links, some social media, as far as where people can, learn more from you and watch you as your book starts to, come out, and how they can get access to you. But can you speak about that uncomfort zone and being into, because like it or not, I've got a lot of, there's a lot of, perfectionists. I came from that world. I tried to do it all right. And I avoided that uncomfort zone.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And look, me, not necessarily perfectionist, but boy, am I a procrastinator. Okay. I am a world-class procrastinator. And so this is where the one step in the right direction comes in. And we all have, comfort is highly overrated. Mm-hmm. It is. And so speaking to the perfectionists, but I've got to do it right. I've got to do it properly the first time. I'll share a story about my brother-in-law. He had traveled from Calgary, Alberta down to Mardi Gras in New Orleans years ago because he wanted to go. And from there, he decided to go over to Florida. He loves boats. We grew up on our summers around boats, doing stuff. And to make some money, he was painting boats, scraping boats, maintaining. And he met a great couple in their 60s. They became friends. Anytime they'd be out sailing, he'd house sit for them because their boat would tie up right off the back of their house. And they started visualizing having this journey where they were going to go across the Atlantic Ocean, go to the Azores Islands, go to Africa, and just help build a school. And so they're planning and planning and planning. And the husband, he's a big planner. He's a perfectionist. Everything's got to be in place. And just before they were getting ready to do the trip, my brother-in-law actually had the opportunity to buy a sailboat of his own, a little bit bigger, solar power, wind power, so it'd make the journey better. They decided to take his boat. So because it's new to him, they wanted to do a test trip. So they spent 3 weeks. They went down to Cuba and back. The moment they stepped back on the jetty behind the house and tying the boat up, the husband goes, you know what? I don't think we're ready. We need to do some more planning. And they were supposed to leave the next day. So he says, I'm not ready to leave. Now his wife, and you talk about, Sean, one of the things that when I teach people about being an authority and the 4 phases of life you go through, it's not about being willing to live life. It's about courageously allowing life to live you.
Love that.
And there's a whole thing behind that. And his wife looked at him and said, honey, I'm so sorry that you're not ready to go. I've been waiting for 10 years. She turned to my brother-in-law and said, Trevor, can I go with you if we're leaving tomorrow? He looked back and said, done. And the next day, the two of them left on that journey. So her husband's now at the house planning. They're now on the journey. They ended up going to the Azores Islands, sailed around them, went to Africa, went 200 miles up a river, helped build a school, everything they wanted to do. They came back over to Costa Rica, spent a little time there, back to the Azores Islands. And when they tied back up at the jetty, they'd been gone for 15 months.
Wow.
They go in the house, and what's her husband doing? Still planning the trip. And how many people do that in their life because they think it has to be perfect? So I love the saying that says this: I would rather have sloppy success than perfect mediocrity.
I love that.
And that's stretching yourself out of your comfort zone.
Love it.
Things aren't going to go right all the time. You're going to hit curve balls. You're going to like hit those walls. It's now trusting yourself enough to say, you know what? If and when, not attracting it to you, but if and when something comes up that didn't go the way I expected, I trust myself that I can make the adjustment.
Absolutely.
I'll learn a lesson and I'll make the next step. And then just keep checking in on yourself. How am I doing right now? You know what? I'm doing good. Take one more step. Check in with yourself. How am I doing right now? You know, it's not perfect, but I'm doing good. I'm still moving. Take another step. That's how you're going to design the life. And when uncomfort comes up, celebrate it. Oh my goodness, I must be growing right now if I'm this uncomfortable. Yep. And if you need help, ask for it. Don't think you have to do it all on your own. Mm-hmm. Goodness sakes, don't try and do it all on your own. Because ladies and gentlemen, you can be successful on your own. You absolutely can. It's just going to take you a lot longer. It's going to be a lot more stressful, and you're not going to have as much fun. See, for me, the currency, one of the 4 currencies is experience, and that's the one I focus on now. I'm all about experience. I do things for the experience now. If I'm coaching someone, I want to experience their journey, who they are, where they want to go, whose lives they want to impact. I do it for the experience. If I'm, life's too short not to have fun. You know me, I like having fun. And in my opinion, there's way too many serious people on this planet. So every experience I'm in, I'm like, how can I add humor? How can I have fun? How can I just lighten up the day for someone? And it took me back to something I learned as a kid, something my mom told me years and years and years ago. She said, Robert, just keep smiling big and bright because most people are going to want to know what the heck you're up to. And so I love that, right? Even when times are tough, I can still put a smile on my face and take one more step.
I love it. So Robert, what are the 4 currencies?
One is money. Too much money, affluenza. Too little, poverty. Second one is the one currency that we all have the identical amount of, time. Too much time on your hands is boredom. Too little time is stress. Yeah. The third one is the currency of fame, something that everybody says they want to have. And as you are aware, Sean, fame can ruin people's lives. So it's how do you handle the currency of fame? And we watch all these child stars, all these big names that go into drug addictions and drinking. And, again, it's part of their life. I'll use the example of Justin Bieber. Yep. Because I love to study people. Some of his greatest songs are now, the ones he's writing now.
Yes.
And because it's from the journey, he had to crash and burn. I'm loving the song with Shawn Mendes. And I thought Justin Bieber wrote it, Monster. But it was actually Shawn Mendes wrote it, who he had looked up to Justin Bieber. And when the two of them met, and Justin Bieber was able to guide him because, it's all about, you've put me up on a pedestal. At 15, the world put me on a pedestal. And if I stumble and fall, does that make me a monster? See, people forget that we're all humans. We're all the same. We're no different. So that fame, and I use the example of how J-Lo handles it. Because this is what I do, Sean, is she was in an interview one time and someone said, how do you handle your fame compared to your family life? Yep. And she said, simple, I create 2 personas. When I'm on stage, when I'm in a movie, when I'm singing, I'm J-Lo. Yep. But when I'm home, I'm Jennifer Lopez. See, when I'm on stage, when I'm doing interviews, I'm Robert Raymond Riopel, the full 3 R's. When I'm home and with friends, I'm Rob or Robert. And I have people in my life that ground me. A running joke with my wife and I come home from spending 2 or 3 weeks overseas, impacting thousands of lives, having everything I need being taken care of, all my food being taken care of, my travel. I have assistants doing everything. And I come home and one thing she'll say is, honey, you're back home. No more assistants. Go take this garbage out. And I'm like, yes. Robert, why do you have a 200-foot driveway? Why do you go shovel it yourself? Because I can. Yeah. And it's something I choose because all of a sudden now I'm present. I may not like it, maybe like, what the hell's all this stuff? But also I'm present. So, that's a currency of fame. And then the fourth currency is that currency of experience. And again, that's the one I'm all about right now. You know that last January before COVID, I had a mastermind, a one-day mastermind. 8 people. We went to Florida, spent a day where a private jet took us to the Bahamas, had 2 Rolls-Royce cars pick us up, gave us a full police escort through the whole city to the Sandals Resort, spent the whole day masterminding on a beautiful beach, flew back that night, got to watch a rocket launch from launch to atmosphere while we're in the air. Mind-blowing, because it's the experience. And when you're coaching people, and so someone says, Sean, I want to do what you do. I would love to be a fitness model. I would love to be in amazing shape. Okay, great. Do you have a vision board? That's number 1. But 2, you say you want to be a model. Have you gone and done a photo shoot just to experience it? Well, I don't have the body I want yet. I don't care. Go out and be comfortable in that shoot, because the moment you're in the experience, you're going to know whether it's something you truly want, because there's 2 wants, Sean. There's ego wants and true wants.
Yes.
The ego wants are the instant gratification. This is what I think I want, and it changes like the wind. Yep. The true wants are the ones that when you're there, you're just like, oh man, I love this. This is where I'm meant to be. And so if someone wants to be a fitness model, then go and watch a fitness shoot, participate in one somehow. Well, it doesn't matter. You dive in. This is part of the authority master key is you just get started. Something you want to learn or experience, you just get started anywhere you can. I've always worked from the bottom up. I don't mind if I'm scrubbing toilets. I don't care. When I was learning to be a trainer, I was polishing the shoes of my mentor. I was pressing his shirts. I was bringing him his food. I was making sure he's waking up in the morning. I was doing, and people going, oh, why would you do that? And I'm like, are you kidding? I have access to this person no one else has.
Yeah.
And I don't have an ego about it.
Absolutely.
I'm there to be of service. So experience. And that's the one I truly that's my whole being now, is what is the experience of what you're doing? And be willing to allow, I love movies. Sean, do you love movies?
Absolutely.
And I love animated movies, because the animated movies for kids, you notice there's more lessons for the adults than there's the kids. And what's your little one's favorite movie right now? Because I guarantee you're watching movies all the time with your little one, right?
Oh yeah, actually, this morning they just turned on Frozen this morning, but
let it go, let it go. That's the only part of the song that I know. That lesson right there is a life-changing success lesson for adults.
Totally.
Quit holding on to crap. Let it go. The one that really rocked my world was Inside Out.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, all the way through, joy is going sadness, and anger is going sadness, sadness. Go away, you're ruining everything, sadness, sadness. But by the end of the movie, when you realize that sadness has its place.
Yes.
Every emotion has its place. And if you try to push it away, you're going to end up having a negative effect. And so when it comes to experience, if you're tired, experience what it is to be tired. Don't try and say, I'm not tired. I'll get up. I'll just take another energy drink. I'll go work out. And I didn't relate this until I went through it. I'm sitting here and I'm traveling around the world and I'm getting burnt out and I'm getting tired again. Because even though I'm taking 6 months off at home, I was doing so much. And my health and my fitness was going downhill. And I'm working out consistently. And I went and I wasn't sleeping. And I went to a sleep expert in Calgary, the city you live in. And I'm going through the tests and I sit down and I'm like, okay, doc, give me the answers. And he said, stop working out. And like, are you kidding me? No, my body's, I choose to be in better shape. He said, Robert, you've got to realize you're a professional athlete and you're overworking your body. Because you're on stage 12 hours a day, you're doing workouts. You're putting 30, 40,000 steps on in a day. And then now you're trying to also work out in a gym in between being on the stage. He says you're burning your body out. That's why you're not sleeping. So in the short term, you need to stop working out. And I resisted because I'm like, no. But I didn't realize the price my body was paying. So I had to be willing to experience that anguish or anger of, what do you mean stop working out? And so when you give yourself permission to actually experience what you're going through in the moment, that allows you to let it flow through you instead of being suppressed. And so those are the 4 currencies.
I love it. I love it. And, just recapping just a little bit about that. I love that where you said you've got 2 wants, the ego wants and, what I call the true essence of us.
Mm-hmm.
It never leaves. Whether you're 10 million to the good or 10 million in the hole, there's something there, right? That's like, oh my gosh, no, this is the truth of me.
Yep.
Versus what you said, the ego is, 10 million in the hole. It could be a totally different conversation. Go do this, do that. And then as you start to make some money and then all of a sudden you're 10 million, it's still got me all over the place and not present. So I love that. Wow. This has been an amazing conversation, Robert. And
we even had a little fun, just a little bit.
Absolutely. We always do. It's amazing. And so I just want to direct all viewers and listeners to definitely check out more of your work. And so we can find you on Facebook.
I have a fan page, Robert Riopel fan page. Absolutely.
Okay,
Instagram, I now have one of those because I figured out I had to do one of those, and it's just RR Riopel. So it has all 3 R's in. RR Riopel is my tag on Instagram, I guess. People can, and people can instant message me on both if they want to find out about what I'm doing with my authority key trainings, because we're doing those on a regular basis, and it's 4 days, where it's 3 hours of just high experience. I'm all about high experience. So, and I love connecting people to help them find that passion, figure out what they are an authority in so that they can live it and take their whole life, that the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and the financial.
Love it.
You can have all 5, ladies and gentlemen. You absolutely can. And does it take work? Yes, it takes work. Is it worth it? Yes. Because Sean, you and I, we have the ability right now to live lifestyles that a lot of people wish they could. And we didn't just get it handed to us.
No.
We put the work in. We put the work in, and it's being willing to stay focused and not do the squirrel. It's like, what do I truly want? And one of the things too is when you find a mentor or someone to model, some of the biggest advice I'm going to give your listeners and your viewers is there's going to be times when you need to just shut up and listen and be coachable. Can't tell you how many times I've watched someone who say they want more success, they want more happiness, but everything that I try to teach them, there's a reason why it won't work. There's a reason why that's not, the path that they should go on. And it's like, you know what? And this is why when I do a contract with someone, I'll tell them there's going to be a point in our relationship, mentor-mentee, where you're just not going to think you need me anymore. And there's going to be no emotion about it. But at that moment, our mentor-mentee relationship ends, because I choose not to work with people who figure they've got it to a stage where they now know it all. And everybody's going to go through that stage. And Sean, you see it with people you help work out, right? Yep. They're starting to see some of the results. They're feeling good. And they're like, I got this dialed in. I got this figured out. I don't need them anymore.
Yes.
And so I state it very clearly. When you get to that stage, our relationship just ends. No ego about it, no upset. And then it's amazing how many of them, as they go through their journey, I call it the starstruck stage. And it's not that you're not going to go through it. Everybody does. It's how quickly do you get through it? And I let them know when you're ready. If you're ever ready again, then you contact and let's pick up where we left off. And so many will then get through that starstruck stage and come back and go, wow. And the first question I have is, what are the lessons you learned? Because now from that journey, what they learned can be where we are able to now hone in, and they become an even deeper student. And because they go, okay, I got it. It all made sense what you're trying to teach me. And so that's kind of a journey that I encourage people. Just be willing to shut up and listen sometimes and be coachable. You'll be amazed at how it can save you years, money, energy, fitness, bad relationships. It can save you a lot of the struggles by doing it the way someone who's already gone through it can show you.
I love it. I love it. And you're also speaking about commitment there too, follow it through. Don't,
Yeah.
no, I got this. So no, we'll, so commitment,
Well,
follow through, right?
and that's part of actually my authority master key. I use another word, and the last letter is an L, which stands for loyalty.
Mm.
And it's not only being loyal to, say, if I was working with you, being loyal to you. First, loyalty comes to my own dreams.
Yep.
How often do we give up on our own dreams? We give up on what we've committed to ourselves. And so we've got to be loyal to us as well as loyal to others. And one of the things I'm probably accused of sometimes is being too loyal. Because I'm not just willing to stop and quit because I hit a few bumps in the road with someone. I'm going to stay loyal to the vision, and it takes a lot for me to lose that loyalty, because I will give 100% and stay committed to what I said I would do. And then, but there are only, so many punches a person will take before they finally go. And I take it more than most people. And that's why they say, Robert, you're just too loyal. You should have left a year ago. And I'm going, maybe I should have, but I committed. So that's why I stuck with it. Now I'm ready to make the decision, because it has to be me realizing it. People can tell you from every direction of why a relationship or whatever's not working out, but until you get it, that's when you get it, if that makes sense.
Totally. Love it. Robert, Raymond Riopel has been awesome, my brother. And now, you can go and just be Robert for the rest of your day, unless you have more work to do. But
yeah, I'm going to Costco. Time to pick up my wife's new glasses. So we're going to Costco, and I'm going to Long and McQuaid to do some shopping.
Love it. Well, sometimes Costco can be a fight itself. So
oh my goodness, yeah. Not even going there. And on a Saturday, am I nuts? On a Saturday, I'm going to Costco. Really? What am I thinking? That should prove to people I'm like everybody else. I am normal. Just because I may be the one teaching right now doesn't mean I'm better than anybody else. It just means maybe I have knowledge they don't have. However, on the same aspect, I guarantee you, everybody that's listening, learning, watching, they also have knowledge I don't have. So I could learn from them at the same time, because that's what being normal is.
Love it. Yeah, and it's so true. So true. Amazing stuff, my brother. We'll So we'll be in touch. Thanks again for the great talk, teaching, lessons, and looking forward to the authority key.
Anytime, and thank you for inviting me. I had a little bit of fun, and when you have people that you respect, it's like Richard Branson says, say yes and figure it out later.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Good stuff. Thank you, Robert.